all this speculation?
Yeah, look, it's obviously very annoying. It's clearly uninformed speculation. Again, today we've been reconfirmed by the Australian Rugby Union that there has been no decision made, and they're not in a position to make a decision at the moment. And so we remain, confident that it is just speculation at this stage.
What's your underlying feeling though with the fact that this is coming out of the eastern states? We're on the west coast. People talk. What's your underlying feeling? Are you nervous about the future, knowing there's so much speculation, even though you're being assured that no decision's been made?
I think you've got to put this in context of what's happened 8 months ago, when SANZAAR at that time decided they'd go back and review the competition. And at that time, there were 3 criteria that needed to happen. And the first one was that the South African teams, having initially supported for the expansion of the competition, had an extra team put in there, that they would agree to drop teams. The second thing that happened was that the broadcasters then agreed that they would continue to support the competition in the same financial status. And then the third part, which is about whether it'd be an Australian team dropped or not. And 8 months ago, that was the questions, and still at this time, we're still in the same position that it has not been confirmed on the first 2 issues. So I do remain confident that this is simply speculation, and whether it's coming from other teams or who are also in the firing line, or whether it's just speculation, I'm not sure.
Is there a date when you know you will know?
No, there's not a date for when we will know.
Is that frustrating?
Yeah, it's frustrating for our organisation, it's frustrating for the players, for the coaches, the support staff. It's frustrating for the whole competition. We're a game that has got some issues at the moment generally, and this is not helping. And certainly, the sooner this is resolved, one way or the other, the better.
I know the ARU have told you that they haven't made a decision, but do you think that behind closed doors they've said if those first 2 steps do happen, that they've come up with a plan already?
I'm not aware of that.
Whose decision actually is it? Is it the ARU's decision, or is it beyond them as to who drops out?
It's the ARU's decision if the decision is to drop one of the Australian teams.
So what you were saying before though, they may not, if South Africa goes back on what they originally said, there won't be any Australian team taken out.
Correct.
What's the likelihood of that, do you think?
Well, again, we're just looking at speculation out of South Africa, and some days we're hearing that there will be no teams dropped, and other days there's 2 teams, and that sort of thing. So there's a range of issues that are still to be resolved here.
Why should the Western Force stay in the comp?
Well, the Western Force should definitely stay in the competition, and it's very much about understanding the importance of a national footprint for our game. That secondly, that the reasons the Western Force was set up in the first place was to increase the number of opportunities available for players to become Super Rugby and Wallaby players. And the success that we're having recently, in recent times, the number of local players that are coming through our development systems and actually being contracted in the Western Force, in itself actually answers the reasons as to why you should expand a competition.
How unsettling is this for the players? I know they're in New Zealand at the moment, but the continued speculation.
Yeah, and it's very unsettling for everybody. We're seeing this for the case for the Rebels and the Brumbies as well as much. So, and it's not just the players, it's their families, it's administration staff, it's everybody.
Did anyone from the ARU ring this morning and reassure you, or just say, look?
Yeah, no, I've spoken to the ARU this morning, and again, they have reaffirmed that position, that there has been no decision made.
Why do they think something like that got out then? Because in the reports it seems pretty strong that the Force has been named. What was their reasoning as to how
Well, firstly, this week it's been the Force. Last week it was the Rebels, and the week before that was the Brumbies. So it hasn't been a consistent theme at all. Secondly, it is a report, it's a speculative piece. And unfortunately, that's just the world we operate in. And it's in some ways the nature of sport.
Do you own the Force campaign? What happens there now?
Yeah, no, we've got every reason to continue on with Own the Force. We've always believed that one of the ways to ensure the long-term survival of the Western Force was to come up to develop a new and different model to ensure that it's financially viable. And Own the Force actually achieves that for us.
With that road safety sponsorship as well, is this financially the strongest the Force has been?
Yeah, potentially it puts us into a very good position. There's no doubt we still need to improve our performances on the pitch. And you know, I think it's well documented as to how the contracting system works in Australia. But ultimately, like any team, that we've got to make sure that we have those periods of success on the field to ensure that supporters and everybody else gets behind the team.
Your chairman intimated that the club had been set up to fail this morning.
Yeah, I think if you read that in context of sort of looking at how sport expands generally, and he talked about the West Coast in the early years, again, similar sort of troubles, and then we saw a different model that developed out of the AFL where there was huge investment made, and you know, GWS is a great example now, and you know, I guess we look with some envy as to how those sorts of clubs have been set up and given every chance to succeed to ground themselves into the community.
Why is it taking so long, this process? Particularly, there's so many livelihoods at risk, three
Yeah.
clubs potentially. Is it frustrating how long the process is actually taking to come to a head?
Yeah, it certainly is frustrating. It's frustrating for everybody. And you know, I think there is something close to 50 different stakeholder groups that need to be consulted and brought through, because it's not just one broadcasting group, it's just not one country. You know, we are, one of the beauties of the Super Rugby competition is that it expands 5 or 6 nations. But you know, on the other side of it is that it has a lot of stakeholders involved.
Is the passion still here among the supporters? Do you still feel that, because there was so much hype, wasn't there, when the club
Yeah.
started, you feeling that?
Yeah, I believe there is, and it's been indicated by the support we've seen in the pledges for support for the Own the Force campaign, and I think that gives us a lot of encouragement. And look, the other point is that we're still seeing an opportunity for the sport, for the way the Western Force is playing at the moment. We're getting lots of good credit from that, and we can see if we can pull that group together for a little bit longer, then the results will definitely start to come for us.
What day can fans start buying those shares?
Yeah, at this stage that we're just waiting for final clearance, but it looks like Thursday.